We spend our lives hustling, working, grinding, building, thinking that just having something is enough. But what happens to all of that hard work if we don't make a plan? Why are we waiting until a crisis to start thinking about our legacy? Why are we leaving GoFundMe links instead of generational wealth? Here's a wake up call. Estate planning isn't just for rich people. It's not reserved for married people or for anybody else society deems as ready. Consider this. Building a legacy starts the moment you decide not to repeat the struggle, the moment you switch to protecting your peace, your people, and your future. Because without a plan, even your hardest work could spiral into confusion, conflict, and chaos when you're not around anymore. And let's be real, our ancestors were denied the right to own, to build, or protect their wealth. Black codes, sharecropping, redlining, and all these other discriminatory laws, all of it tried to keep us from building legacies. But today, we can do something about it. Even small steps like a life insurance policy or a simple will or trust, naming a guardian for your kids if something happens to you, can create stability and opportunity for the people that we love. So if you've ever thought, well, I'm too young for this, or I don't have anything to put in a will, let me tell you, that's exactly when you need to start. Because protecting your family and your legacy and your future is love in action. And today I'm super excited because we are sitting down with my mother. She is an estate planning attorney, and I have a ton of questions to ask her. This is the person who taught me to always think about my future, the person who gave me space to dream big and want more out of life than to just survive. So I'm super excited to jump into today's conversation.
Are as powerful. Few things are as powerful.
What is going on, beautiful people? You are listening to the Affirmations for Black Girls podcast, where we focus on personal growth and cultivating a healthy relationship with ourselves. I am your host, Tyra, the creative actress, content creator, and mental health enthusiast. And you guys, today I get to have a conversation with the one person that put me on this earth. Okay. This person is so special. And my mama, Andrea Vanessa Morrison Vance, is here with us today. Y'all, she is not only the woman who raised me into this person that I am now that y'all have come to love, but she raised me with love and wisdom. And she's also a brilliant estate planning attorney, with over 14 years of experience for helping families, especially Black women and their families, secure their legacies. So, hey, Ma.
Hey, daughter. Hey, everybody.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm going to act right today. Ma, I know I just gave like a little introduction, but I want you to tell the people who you are. Tell them.
Well, everybody, I am Tyra's mother, Ma Esquire, and it is really good to meet you all today.
Okay, Mom. So you already know that what we're talking about today, y'all, we're going to be talking about like estate planning, and I'm going to just be asking her some questions that are on my mind, especially as I am entering the 30s for real. Like I'm 31 now. I'm starting to have more questions about legacy planning and planning for the future, right? So we're going to talk about that today. But before we do, I do like to do a quick icebreaker, Ma, with people who come on the podcast. And I know we had something set here to ask. I may ask you that question second, but I have another one that I really want to ask that's more of a Tyra question. Are you ready?
I'm going to try to be ready.
No, it's easy. I promise.
Okay.
Okay. So, what is one of your favorite desserts from your childhood and why?
Oh, one of my favorite desserts from my childhood, my grandmother used to make blackberry cobbler. And I love her blackberry cobbler. And she knew when I was coming that she needed to make it. I actually have two because that's with one grandmother. The other grandmother used to make the controversial, I'm sure everyone has heard about it, the potato pie. made with the white potato, not the sweet potato. And I don't really care what anybody else has to say about it. If you haven't tried it, then you probably don't need to be commenting about it. But that dessert, so when we would go for holidays, we went to each grandmother's house for holidays. One made my blackberry cobbler, and the other one made my potato pie.
You were
And
set.
spoiled me. And I always had that pie every time we had a family gathering. Either one of those, the cobbler or the pie. And I was just a happy little camper.
So Grandma Lily was making the blackberry cobbler.
Blackberry cobbler.
Okay. And then, of course, you guys know I talk about this all the time, but my great grandma, Willie Mae, is the one who made the white potato pie.
That's right. That's
So
right.
you were set on holidays.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I didn't even have to have food. If they just had my dessert, I was fine. And they both knew to set my portion aside. She coming, so y'all can't eat her part. That's right.
I
So
love
just a
that.
little insider, I am the oldest grandchild with the grandmother who made the potato pie, and I am the second oldest grandchild with the grandmother who made the blackberry cobbler.
Who's
And
the
so,
oldest?
yes, Daphne is the oldest.
Daphne older than you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Daphne is
Oh,
the
by
oldest.
how much? Like a year?
I think 2 years.
I did not know Daphne was the oldest
Yeah, Daphne is the oldest. That's the interesting thing because everybody in the family seems to think that I'm the oldest grandchild on
on
both sides.
both sides.
Treat me that way. They actually do. And I have cousins who actually call me auntie.
I was talking, so when Nana was doing my hair, we were talking, and she was like, I always just call her T Vanessa because that's what everybody else said. And I was like, girl, that's your cousin.
That's right. We cousins. We are not TT and niece or whatever. But yeah, they all call me auntie. And I just let them, even though
Yeah.
I've corrected them and they're like, well, they still do it.
Yeah, the thing she's talking about, you guys, is so both on both sides, her parents have a lot of siblings. So people are having kids at different times. So some of her cousins are having kids that are way younger. So the girl that we were just talking about, she's only 21 years old. So in her mind, it makes sense that you would say auntie or whatever versus cousin because she's so much older. But that's really what's going on there. And I was talking, I forgot who I was talking to, mom, but I was talking to somebody and I was just saying it's crazy because I'm the oldest on one side and the second oldest on the other side. But
That's right.
yeah, I'm the oldest girl on both sides. And I realized that you are the oldest girl on your mama's side.
Uh-huh.
And and she is also the oldest girl as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So
So
we're
I'm
three
the oldest
generations
of
of the
five
oldest girls.
girls, and then Tyra is the oldest of the grandchildren from that same group of girls. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just crazy. Okay, well, I did have another question. I guess we can jump into this question really, really quickly. What is one lesson that you have inherited? One thing that you're currently unlearning, and one thing that you hope to pass on to like me, PJ, or your grandkids, if you have any. We don't know.
So, in a nutshell, one thing that I am unlearning right now is not having a poverty mindset. And that encompasses a lot of different things, but just being able to look back over the years that God has given me on this earth. And when I look at those years compared to the conversations and the talk that I would hear as a child, I think that I am definitely well on my way. And I'll give an example of how overcoming the poverty mindset. I want to make a disclaimer and say that past generations, like my grandmothers and great grandmothers, during the period of time when they were either growing up or even living as adults raising their children, I respect and acknowledge that such situations and circumstances kept them in the poverty mindset that they were in. So I don't blame them, and I hope that I don't offend. But an example of me purposefully trying to break that chain of the poverty mindset or that hold that it had on or has on and can have on individuals. An example would be as a child, families did certain things to make sure that they had the resources to put food on the table. And so I grew up in a family where there was I'm gonna call it a tradition of picking pecans. So, picking up pecans and
Mm-hmm.
then you would give a portion of that to the landowner, kind of like sharecropping a little bit. There was a little bit of that going on. And so you would pick up those pecans and you would give, if you picked 3 sacks, they would get one, maybe even 1.5 or 2 of those sacks. You would get the last one, and then you would be compensated for the weight in pecans that you would pick up. And I recall one day as a little girl being in the freezing cold on my knees, nose running, picking pecans. And I thought that I was, doing great. I said to my family, one day when I get older, I'm not going to have to pick up pecans to make money. I'm going to make something out of myself. I'm going to do something that I can bring in money a different way. And obviously I offended because the response that I got was not one that I expected, and I ended up in tears that day. But I never gave up. I never gave up the hope that I had that one day I would not have to be out in a cold field under a pecan tree on my knees, picking up pecans and then selling them and not being able to keep all of the money that my hard work brought about. And so I think that I have done well with that. I kept my promise to myself because at that day I knew that with the response I got that that promise was just for me, that I was making a promise to myself that I would not have to do this. I respect, and I will say that again, I respect what generations before me had to do. And I'm not taking anything away from what they had to do. But I thought and I felt like I knew that there was something more out there for me as an adult. And it was. And so I've lived a very good life. God has truly blessed me financially, and He's still blessing me. So I would say, the poverty mindset, because situations and circumstances in our ancestors' past, I mean, that was like beat into them, and not like it was beat
Mm-hmm.
into them. If you know your family's history as Black people, you know what they went through during slavery. And even coming out of slavery, some of it still existed. So I know what they went through. I know about the beatings. We read the history. We know about it. And if we know people in our family or have that history passed down in our family, then we know what was happening. So it wasn't their fault. But I was a dreamer as a child, and I dreamed of something better. And so I work hard to not have that poverty mindset, because even with that, sometimes it causes me to, you have, but then you're always planning for the day that you don't have. And that's where
Mm-hmm.
I am right now. I'm trying to get that mindset out of me, that I'm not planning for the day that I might not have the things that I have now, because I trust God, and I trust that I will not lose anything, but He will continue to give me wisdom and give me grace to be able to not only continue to have what I have, but to grow and leave a legacy for my children.
Love that. It's crazy that you brought up the picking the puckons story because me and PJ have gone pick puckons with Grandma Lily and Papa and stuff, and I'm pretty sure it's that same field that y'all was in under those same puckon trees because she mentioned whenever we went, this was when, how old were we? I don't know. I know you knew we was there. I don't know. How old were we? Like
Oh,
8? I
I'm
don't know.
not sure.
We were pretty young. And she mentioned, oh yeah, I worked for these people, or maybe Papa said it. I don't know. And I was like, dang, all of these years. And then, yeah, taking our sacks up there to get our little change. And I was just like, wow, this is, I mean, I enjoyed spending time with my great grandma and my papa, but I don't want to do nothing like this. But, as when I was a child, I mean, you say that I'm still the same person, but I remember me being a little more reserved, especially with my actual inner thoughts. I didn't really share my thoughts a lot, and I was saying the same thing. I was like, I don't want to do this for money.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
hard work.
Yeah, and I'll just interject too with you. You were different. And I know I remember when you were about 10 or 11 when you first told me what you wanted to do as a career. You wanted to be an actor. And so I remember telling someone in the family, this is what she wants to do. And the reaction was, you're going to let her?
Mm-hmm.
So that's that poverty mindset
Yep.
that,
Yep.
how dare you want to be an actor? And I'm sure it wasn't because they thought that you would fail. I believe it's because they they didn't know how success looked
Yep.
in that arena.
Yes.
So the reaction was out of I don't want to say ignorance because that's a
Fear.
strong word.
Out of
It was out of
fear.
fear. It was due to a lack of knowledge. And so unless they could see what acting could do for you, then it was like a non-starter to them. No, that's not what she's going to do. She's going to do something that we're familiar with. Why can't she just go get a good government job and, work on that for 30 years and retire?
Never.
You have to
Never.
you have to consider, what does success look like to the person that you are getting that response from and evaluating that response from. So I had to do that with that reaction under the pecan tree.
Mm-hmm.
What does success look like to that person? Because if they have never been able to dream and never been able to attain the goals that they had, then of course, they're going to shoot down the goals that you have. And it was a response of like, so you think you better than us?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not that I think I'm better than anyone in my family, because I'm not. I just think that I'm better than the situation or circumstance that I was speaking of at that time. And so, in order to dream, you have to believe that you are better than the situation that you're facing right now, or you're better than the circumstances that you're in right now. And that's where I was as a child. I wanted something more.
And this is the last thing I'm gonna say, and then we gonna move on. I think from my perspective, that moment under the pecan tree, for you when you were growing up, planted a seed for you to allow there to be space for me and PJ to dream. Because me and PJ talk about this all the time. I mean, we've kind of said it to you. I'm glad that you're our mom and like nobody else, because of like just the things that we have seen growing up. I think that planted a seed for there to be space for me and PJ to dream in whatever way we see fit. Because in our home, when it was like just the four of us, especially when we was just talking about this the other day, going to Barbizon on the weekends, y'all. I used to go down to New Orleans, once a month on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday or something. What was it?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly. I just remember that drive. Yeah.
Saturday and Sunday, like once a month or so, going down to Barbizon in order for me to pursue my dreams while I'm in middle school, right? Our home was a safe haven for me and PJ to just, whatever is in our mind, if we want to experience it, if we want to try out for it, we could. But as soon as we stepped out of the home, there were people who would say things. They wouldn't say, no, you're going to be unsuccessful, but they would say, well, what about if you just did this thing? And I think the space was there for us to root ourselves in our confidence so much that whenever people were saying stuff like that I can speak for myself. When people were saying stuff like that to me, I was like, what? What are you talking about? What? Okay, whatever. I'm about to go do this acting thing. Like, don't play with me. Like, my
Yeah,
mama and daddy got my back. Like, they taking me. What is you talking about? Like, that don't even make sense. Like, I'm already doing it.
that's
So
right.
I'm glad that I think that moment in your life was able to plant a seed for us to be able to blossom in this way. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, and thank you for articulating that today.
All right, y'all. Before we dive into anything else, we have to get into our affirmation of the week. So I'm going to pass it over to my mama for this week's affirmation.
All right. This week's affirmation is: breaking cycles doesn't require perfection. just intention. Breaking cycles doesn't require perfection, just intention. Breaking cycles doesn't require perfection, just intention. Breaking cycles does not 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 require perfection, just intention. Yeah. Breaking cycles does not require perfection, just intention. One last time. Breaking cycles does not require perfection, just intention.
Love that, love that, love that. Thank you, Ma, for leading this week's affirmation.
You're welcome.
I love that it says that breaking cycles doesn't require perfection because the nature of breaking cycles means that you are taking chances at figuring out how to break this cycle. And I think from a very young age, because you've talked about like generational cycles that you want to be broken and stuff like that a lot. And I think at the root of it all, you have always had intention. So I think this affirmation is powerful because as long as you have made it up in your mind that, okay, I'm about to break this cycle. I'm about to break it. I don't know how for real yet. All I know is I'm going to do it. Having that intention at the root of it all is what really, truly matters because you never know what the outcome is going to be.
That's right.
All right, Ma. So when we talk about generational wealth, people can often think that we are just specifically talking about money. But I know that wealth is not just money. So what else does wealth look like, especially in our community?
Okay, so generational wealth includes assets that are passed down from one generation to the next, like real estate. That's land, it could be apartment complexes, it could be multi-family homes, anything that's real estate. It could be investments. It could be investments in the stock market. It could be annuities. It could be certificates of deposit. Businesses, if you're a business owner, you might want to pass that business down through your family. It can also include life insurance. Life insurance can be considered generational or create generational wealth.
Hmm.
So, as Black Americans, we have faced historical and systemic barriers in building generational wealth. So in the early 1500s, this is why I go back to history. We need to know our history. In the early
Hmm.
1500s, Africans were forcibly taken from their homeland and sold into slavery, with the first enslaved African arriving in what is now the United States in Virginia in 1619. Enslaved Africans were considered property at that time, not people. So we were property, y'all. We were an asset to the individuals that brought us over here against our will. We were assets to them. We created generational wealth for them. So as Black people during that time, we couldn't own land. We couldn't pass down wealth. We couldn't legally protect our families. Their labor built the foundation of the American economy, yet they were denied the right to benefit from it. So slavery was abolished in around 1865 with the 13th Amendment. Freed Black Americans were promised 40 acres and a mule at that time, but this promise was quickly revoked. Many African Americans were forced into sharecropping, a system that kept them in poverty. We mentioned that earlier just with a simple example about the pecans and picking up pecans. That was a form of sharecropping. So Black Americans faced discriminatory laws like the Black Codes and Jim Crow that limited their ability to own land or to access credit. Redlining and housing discrimination in the 20th century further blocked wealth accumulation. Now let's think about that. The 20th century were what years? That was from 1901 to 2000.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure that there are a lot of people listening to this podcast that were born between that time. And just to think that redlining and housing discrimination were still in existence. And now we're in the 21st century and we still face some of those obstacles.
So we talked about at the beginning with the going back to the pecan tree. And yes, y'all, I say pecan, my mama say pecan. I say pecan, I don't know why. But we talked about it being because our older generations had no other choice. They had to survive. Literally, they would be literally killed if they did not comply. But nowadays, how can we shift from survival mode, even if we're starting small? Like, of course, especially in the South, I feel, I mean, because that's my experience growing up there, a lot of people still live with this, oh, I'm just trying to survive mentality. If I'm a person who is like, oh, wait, I finally realized I've been living in survival mode this whole time, what is something that I can do to shift from that? Even if we're starting small, like from scratch, something easy and practical.
So Tyra, I think that that answer is different for each person. I think
Mm-hmm.
that that response is specific to each person. What I can say to you is for that individual who is finishing high school and facing the world, and whether or not you have the ability to stay at home with your parents, or whether or not your parents are saying, no, you're grown now, you need
Yeah.
to go. I do think that starting on a good foot is what's going to help you. You have to have a plan. So if I'm starting from scratch, 18 years old, leaving my parents' home, the first thing I want to do is make sure I get a job. Okay. If I'm not going to go to college, I'm not going to go to the military, then I need to have income coming in. So I'm going to get a job. I'm going to evaluate my income from there. Can I afford to buy a house? Can I afford to get an apartment? Do I need to rent, whether it's an apartment or a house? Do I need to get a roommate to help pay for all the bills? But I'm going to budget. You know, once you get that job, you need to budget. You need to know what your capacity is. So if my capacity is that I can only afford $500 a month in rent, then I need to be looking for something that I can afford. I'm also going to need a car to be able to get back and forth to work. Can I afford a brand new car, or do I need to get a used car? I need to look at my budget. Either way, I think that coming out of being stuck, that's what you said, right? Being stuck.
Survival mode. Yeah.
Okay. So coming out of survival mode means that I have to change my mindset. I have to start thinking about, how do I survive? Rather than always bringing up the rear and always trying to play catch up, I'm going to start from a position of, here's what I have, and how can I work with what I have to get to where I want to be? Do I need to go take night classes somewhere to increase my skill set so that I can increase my ability to earn income? There are a lot of programs available now, training programs, whether it's, hey, let me go to this 2-night session where they teach me how to start a business and what I need to do to get that business up and running, whether or not they teach me, do I need to be an LLC or stay a sole proprietor? How do I write a business plan? How do I approach the bank and ask for loans? How do I handle staffing? What product do I want to offer? How do I market that product? If I don't want to be an entrepreneur, there may be classes on, okay, so I might want to be a bookkeeper. There's a class on how to use QuickBooks so that you make yourself more valuable to the entity that you want to pursue employment with. If you have knowledge in QuickBooks, you may not have a college degree, but there are always accountants and other entities out there looking for folk with a certain skill set. So how do I get out of survival mode means that I have to really stop for a minute, evaluate myself, evaluate my skill set, see where I'm lacking, figure out how I can increase my value, whether or not it is going out and obtaining a skill or going to start at the entry level at a certain organization that I might want to grow and remain there for 30 years. There's nothing wrong with remaining at the same job for 30 years and retiring, but did you have a plan going in the door? You go in the door as one thing, 30 years later, you're the same thing, then you probably didn't have a plan. Or you may have, that may be all that you wanted to do. But coming out of survival mode first means that I'm going to have to recognize that I'm in survival mode and then sit down and have a plan, develop a plan. And your plan is going to be fluid. It's always going to change. If your plan is not fluid, then you're not putting in the effort necessary to be successful and to grow as an individual in your career, in your home, in your family space. You always have to have a plan.
Okay. So a lot of people always say, like, we say like Black people are the backbone of this country, but I think also in addition to that, Black women are like the backest of backbones to this country. Like, this country was built on our backs. So what do you think are some ways or some overlooked ways that Black women have already contributed to generational wealth without even realizing it or being celebrated for it?
So I think I can answer this question a little briefer than the past ones. I will say that, in my opinion, Black women have contributed to generational wealth in a way that has been overlooked, and they sometimes do not get the credit for just being present, being a mother in the home to their children. I take issue when I see parents handling their young children in such a manner that they demean them, they call them out of their name, they cuss them, they tell them they're not good for anything, you just like your daddy, you ain't gonna be nothing, and all of these things. But when I see a Black mother who has been in the home and who has done nothing but encourage their children, our children are dreamers. And if you ask a 7-year-old what they want to be, they may say, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be an astronaut, I want to be this or that. Those children have so much potential. When we encourage them and we push them toward that potential as they're growing, as they're getting older, expose them to avenues that can set them up to go down that path that they want to go to become that professional, then we have done our jobs. It's not up to us to determine whether or not they can or cannot be that. Now, I'm going to say in some situations, it might be impossible. You may have a child who has a disability and you know that they may not ever be an astronaut. Okay, that's one thing. But you could still expose them to the sciences so that they become as close to an astronaut as they could possibly be. But the mothers are nurturers. And so when we nurture our children, we want to nurture them to their best potential. We want to encourage them no matter what they say they want to be. You know, it's like Dr. Martin Luther King said, you might be a street sweeper, but you're going to be the best street sweeper that anyone has ever seen. So encourage your children. And I think as Black mothers, we have plenty of them out there, and we have plenty of stories about them. Michael Jordan's mother, she was his biggest proponent,
Hmm.
and he went, to the height of his career as a basketball player. That was due to his mother. We need to give mothers more credit. We have mothers now who are becoming managers for their children, and they need to have the same credit that a male manager would have, because their children are no less benefiting from becoming an athlete or whatever it is that the mom is managing them in than they would have been had they had a male manager. So mothers get overlooked, but we're contributing to generational wealth, because when our children are successful, it shows the success from the family home.
Hmm. Building that foundation early.
Yes, building the foundation. Yes.
Okay, Ma. So I know that everybody should have some sort of like estate planning or like legacy planning, is what I hear you say a lot of the time. And especially in the Black community, a lot of people do not set themselves up for success. I know for me, I didn't start hearing about estate planning and legacy planning until you started saying that, okay, this is my lane. Like, this is where I want to be. And I was like, oh, okay, I actually never thought about that. Granted, I'm only 31 years old, but the earlier you start, the better, right? So, can you walk us through the basics of estate planning? Because a lot of people may say, especially in the Black community, well, I ain't got nothing to pass down. I already ain't got no money. I don't have this, that, and the third. So what are the basics when it comes to estate planning and legacy planning?
So a simple definition of estate planning is the process of deciding what happens to your money, your property, and your responsibilities. People don't think about
Hmm.
responsibilities when they die, but what happens to your responsibilities when you either pass away or you are unable to make decisions for yourself? So, with estate planning, the documents or the tools that we use for estate planning might be a will or a trust. It could be a power of attorney. It could even be life insurance. So, imagine yourself working hard your whole life. You build a home, you save money, you take care of your family, only to have it thrown into chaos and confusion when you're no longer around. And so that's what happens when we don't have an estate plan in place. So estate planning is crucial for everyone, regardless of your age or your wealth. So yes, Tyra, at 31, you should have an estate plan. It's not just for the wealthy, it's for those who are on their way to being wealthy. It's not just for the elderly, it's for everyone, including the 31-year-old Tyra. So estate planning is for anyone who wants to protect their loved ones. And you may be thinking, oh, I don't have any children. You're not doing estate planning to protect your children that you don't have. You're doing estate planning to protect your loved ones, your mom, your dad, your brother.
Hmm.
What do we do if something happens to you? What do we do with your belongings? It's to protect your property and your peace of mind. So it's one of the most important gifts that you could give to your family. It's about making sure that what you do have is protected and that it's passed on the right way, whether you're single, whether you're married, whether you have kids or own a home or a business, or you just want to make sure that your wishes are respected, then you should have an estate plan. You might not want all of your assets to go to me or your dad. You might want everything to go to your brother. Well, if you pass away, then the state law is going to decide where your things go, and it might not be to your brother. It might be to your mom and dad. So if you
Hmm.
want your brother to inherit directly from you, then you want to have an estate plan in place.
I have a question. What is the difference between, because you've talked about this before, a living will. Is a living will different from a will? And then there's a trust. Can you like give a very brief definition of what those things are?
So a will is a document where you basically spell out what you want done with your estate. And your estate could be, for you, Tyra, it could be, your trademark,
Hmm.
your image, your likeness.
Oh,
There's so much that folk don't think about
yeah.
when it comes to estate. So in your will, you would direct. Basically, your will is a directive to whomever is responsible for administering your wishes. That's the directive that this is what I want to see happen. I want my home to go to this person. I want my name, image, and likeness to be taken over by this person or this entity. I want the money in my bank accounts to go to this person.
Okay.
Those are directives. As far as a living trust, we'll talk about a trust in general. So when you set up a trust is also a type of directive, but a trust has to be funded. Meaning if you don't have a will, but you establish a trust, then those items that you want to go to your beneficiaries of that trust would have to already be in the trust or be directed to the trust upon your passing. Okay. So we have what's called a revocable trust, and then we have irrevocable trust. Underneath the umbrella of each could be several different types of trust, which is why I don't try to school people on the different types of trusts
Hmm.
because it can become very complicated. Okay. But just know that there are two basic types of trust, revocable and irrevocable. A revocable trust, you can revoke it at any time. Okay. But once you set up an irrevocable trust, then you cannot take it back. Okay.
Why would somebody do that? Why would they want to set up an irrevocable one? Maybe if they're like
Well, there
going
are,
like losing their memory or stuff like that.
no, there are certain benefits to having an irrevocable trust. That's when we get into the IRS code and tax planning and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So when you consider an irrevocable trust, then you have to look toward minimizing taxes and things like that. So let's say
Okay.
that you have an estate that's worth $20 million. Well, at the $20 million level, you also have what we call a death tax. It's an estate tax to the federal government. And so if you have an estate that size, then you're going to be looking more toward irrevocable trusts when they're set up with your estate planner. Because if you don't, then the assets that you leave in that trust could be taxed at the estate level, which is your level for an estate tax. And then it could also be taxed to the individuals that you left it to. So
Oh,
you sit down with a very good, knowledgeable estate planner who understands all of that, who can minimize the amount of taxes that are paid upon your death and the transfer of those assets to the beneficiaries. Okay.
okay.
So the living trust falls under the revocable trust. And so while you're living, you can set up a trust and you can put your assets into that trust. And when you're doing that, it's in anticipation of you becoming incapacitated, possibly, or your death. And so there's certain rules that have to be followed. And those rules also depend upon the individual person. So I try not to give out advice on trust unless that person has come in and sat down with me and we go through their particular facts associated with their life at that time. That is the best way for me to advise them on what type of trust they need.
Okay. So, two questions. You mentioned responsibilities at the beginning of this. What are responsibilities? Like, can you give it a couple of examples? And then, what if people, I know a thing that could deter people from setting up an estate plan is the fees that come along with going to an estate planner. Is there anything very basic that they can do on their own?
So you asked two questions. I'll
Yeah.
answer the second one first about the fees. In answering that question, I'm going to ask the question, how important to you is your peace of mind?
Ooh.
Um, People can do anything on their own if they want,
Hmm.
but whether or not what they did on their own is going to be honored when it needs to be honored is the question. So yes, you can go and create a will on your own, but it doesn't mean that when you pass away, the court is going to honor it. One scenario in Louisiana that could come up is that Louisiana has two types of wills. They have the oleographic will, which is a completely handwritten will. Then they have a notarial will, which is the will that your attorney or notary would prepare for you. An holographic will can get thrown out of court because it has to be proven that it is your will. There's certain criteria. It has to say, this is my last will and testament. It has to be completely in your handwriting. It has to be signed by you and things of that nature. It has to have the type of language in it that one would expect in a will. Not perfect, but it has to have donative intent pretty much, where you intended for this to be a will that would become active upon your death and that you would be giving away these things to these different people. Now, Louisiana, I think, is considering they're trying to get away from the oleographic will because of those problems.
Hmm.
Because when that will is thrown out by the court, then the court follows the state law, which might not be what you intended. So you may intend for Great Aunt Susie to get something in your will, but if your will is holographic and it gets thrown out, then the state law says that it goes to your surviving spouse or your children. So those folk that you wanted to take care of in your will might not necessarily be able to benefit from it. So responsibilities would be, if you have minor children, you want to make sure that you put in place guardians. So if something happens to you while your children are under 18 and you have not named guardians, then the court system is going to determine where your kids go, especially if no family member steps up and says, I want them, and they advocate for getting them. Then they fall into the hands of the state. They become a ward of the state. And then the state may, put them into temporary homes, and you don't know what's going to happen to your children. So, but your children are your responsibility. And that's what I mean. It's up to you to make those decisions early, whether or not you do a will and you appoint guardians in that will who will step in if something happens and take care of your children. Another example of responsibilities could be if you're an entrepreneur and you own a business. What's going to happen to your business if something happens to you? Have you already set up a succession plan so that someone can step in and run your business so that it doesn't have to close once you're gone? So those are two examples of responsibilities that are simple to understand that we talk about when we talk about estate planning.
And you should do that at any time, even if nothing is wrong with you. You should just have
You
a plan in place.
you want to do it when nothing is wrong, because if you become incapacitated and you cannot make those decisions on your own, then you have to go through the court right now. So in Louisiana, if you become incapacitated, can't make decisions on your own, I have to petition the court to have you declared an interdict. That's Louisiana terminology. Declared an interdict. And then I have to ask the court to appoint me as your curator. You may not want me as your curator. You may want someone else as your curator. So doing it when nothing is wrong with you guarantees that your wishes will be honored. If you can't tell the court what your wishes are, then the court is going to follow its own criteria under Louisiana law. And then the final thing I'll say about that is, if you are incapacitated, let's say you are in a coma, or you suffer from amnesia, or you develop Alzheimer's, and so you can't make decisions on your own, then there's nothing that I can do for you directly as an attorney. I can't do a power of attorney because you have to have the capacity.
Hmm.
And if you are determined to be incapacitated, then that definitely means you do not have the capacity to make legal decisions for yourself. So you want to do it when you have good frame of mind and you clearly understand the decisions that you're making.
So, especially in the Black community, I know that talking about wills and talking about death and talking about planning for the future can be a very uncomfortable topic. How do you recommend approaching these types of conversations with older people in your family, or even like me, like having this conversation with you? How do you approach that when it can be super uncomfortable, especially if it's a family that doesn't really see the benefit or doesn't really focus on these types of things in life?
So I can answer that question directly from my own experiences. And I would first say you approach that conversation directly, but you also approach it with compassion, understanding that the other person may not receive that question well, because we seem to have this trust factor that comes into play. And so folk may want to know, well, why you asking? Why you want to know?
Hmm.
They think that you're trying to cheat them out of something. But I would say approach it directly, approach it with compassion, and give examples. If you know of situations where other families have dealt with what you think your family might deal with if they fail to have a plan, then give those real life examples. Most people will consider that. Now, they may not make a decision the same day that you talk to them, but consider approaching the conversation, you know, whenever you can, the best times that you can, and then hope for the best.
I don't know why this just popped into my head, but what about like people who are older and you realize that they don't have any sort of life insurance? What is something that can be said? Hey, you need to go get a life insurance policy right now. Like, can you take out a life insurance policy on like your grandma or something like that? Like, how can you help mitigate those types of situations? Because I know, like with Grandma Willie Mae, it was a issue with the life insurance there as well when she passed away.
I think anyone can get life insurance unless they have been considered to be uninsurable. And most times when someone is uninsurable, it's because of really bad health. Then you look toward getting a burial policy. There may not be an opportunity for life insurance for them, but you would look toward getting a burial policy. And I would, again, approach that conversation directly with them to say, hey, here's what this looks like. And eventually we're going to have to, or someone's going to have to shoulder the responsibility of planning your funeral and actually, burying you. And so, what is it that you want to see happen? And do you have anything in place such that that financial burden is not on your family? And I will say this, I have to take the moment to say it. GoFundMe is not insurance.
Yes.
So, we should all be thinking about it. And so the responsible adult will say, I don't want that to fall to my family. They may even say that, my family may not even give me a burial. They may cremate me and then let the funeral home keep the ashes. That's just how it could be at times. Families may not be able to afford to actually pay for those items, but it's always good for each individual to consider what is it that I want to see happen to my remains, and how do I go about making sure that I take that burden off of my family's shoulders. So yeah, a burial policy is an alternative. I've seen families where the children pitched in and bought a burial policy for their 65-year-old parent whose health has started failing. And by the time the parent did pass, that policy was still in effect because the children were paying for it. And so they were able to go through the funeral. And that was just one less thing that they had to deal with while they were grieving the loss of their loved one.
I think it definitely adds peace of mind for sure. I think I said this a long time ago, and you was like, "Girl, Stop. But I said, I want to be cremated and I want my ashes to be spread in the ocean or something like that. I said a long time ago. But ever since, and I told you this, ever since my friend's brother has now passed away, so they are cremating him. And when we were together the other day, she was just like, I don't know if I want to go see him. He's been, in and out of the freezer and stuff. And everybody's telling me that I shouldn't go see him like that. And I was like, what are you talking about? You should go see him. In my mind, I'm thinking, oh, he's been embalmed. He's been fixed up. But they don't do that if you are
Yeah.
cremating your loved one. And
Yeah.
also, you don't get that wake. You don't get that final time of seeing them. So I think that is also a very important thing to consider ahead of time as well, especially like if you die young, if you die unexpectedly and stuff. I think it's so important to have those life insurance policies in place or even a savings account, something, because a lot of people don't really want to get life insurance these days because of all of the stipulations that come with that. Knowing that ahead of time so that people can say goodbye and have that moment with you is also just as important. So I think it does help with peace of mind by making sure, okay, we have to have this policy in place. Like you mentioned that you have a policy on me and PJ that how much you pay a month? $10, something like that. It's not as expensive as people may think.
Well, yeah, I've had whole life insurance on you and your brother since you were at least 4 and 5 years old. And it's the same policies, and I've actually added additional policies, but with across all four policies, it's two for each of you. I only pay $54 a month, which some people would say is a lot, but it's whole life and it's four policies. And while they're not huge policies, but they are whole life, which means that once you and your brother do decide to go and get policies of your own, you are automatically insurable because you have the whole life policies. And so that's the good thing about having whole life is that it keeps you with the opportunity to add life insurance for yourself. Now, I don't know the limits of how much life insurance that you could possibly get, but I do know that you will never be without life insurance as long as those whole life policies are in effect and you take them over even after I can't pay for them anymore. So that's always a good thing. And as far as the cremation versus a burial, yes, families need closure. And so you don't want to, while you don't want to take that away from them, it is your decision. But if you want that decision honored, then you need to put it in writing, whether it's in your will, whether or not you have some type of declaration that you type up for the family indicating that these are my wishes for my final remains, whatever that may be. All of it needs to be in writing. That is the importance of estate planning. It has to be in writing in order for your family to know what your wishes were and to be able to honor those wishes.
No matter where you are in your journey, it's not too late to start building wealth, protect your peace, or plan your legacy. Here's the truth. Estate planning is more than just legal paperwork. It's a love letter to your family. It is a blueprint for their security once you're gone and a way to honor every sacrifice that you have made in your life. So start small if you need to. Be open to a conversation with a trusted advisor, draft a simple will, or name a guardian for your kids if you have them. My mama broke it down. Without a will, a trust, or powers of attorney, your hard work could spiral into confusion or even family conflict, which happens more often in our communities than you may think. With a few intentional moves, you can protect your children, your businesses, and your peace of mind and pass down stability that lasts for generations. Legacy isn't just about money. It's about love. It's about intention. And it's about ensuring the people that you care about most are cared for, no matter if you're here or not. So here is your call to action. Start somewhere today. Draft that will, set up that trust, get the life insurance that fits your budget. Have the tough conversations with your loved ones because having them today is so much easier than trying to have them when you're actually in the midst of a crisis. Trust me, y'all, your future self will thank you. Y'all, you know what time it is. It is time for our fun closing segment. And since we've been talking about some heavier things today, something that is really going to make you think, I wanted to make the fun closing segment a little lighter. So, Mom, today we're playing One Gotta Go. Okay, are you ready?
Okay.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is give you 4 options for something, and you got to say one of them things gotta go.
Okay.
All right, so the first one is round one is Southern staples, and one of these gotta go. Macaroni and cheese, fried chicken, collard greens, or cornbread. Which one gotta go? Look at
Macaroni and cheese gotta go.
why you answered that fast. Hold on.
Because out of those 4 options, I would prefer the collard greens with some cornbread, the fried chicken, and what was the other one?
The last one was macaroni and cheese. It's only
Okay.
4, yeah.
Yeah.
But you like macaroni well, actually, no, I don't see you eating macaroni and cheese a lot. I see you eating these other 3 things a lot more.
Yes, if I had to rank them, macaroni and cheese would be last on my list if that's all I could have.
Okay. For me, you know what? Oh, one gotta go. One gotta go, Tyra. What's gonna go? What's gonna go? What's gonna go? What's gonna go? Oh God.
Cornbread.
No, Ma, I could rub cornbread all over my body. I love cornbread. Anything with corn in it, I absolutely love. So no, cornbread can't go.
Okay.
I might have to follow up with you on that and say macaroni and cheese because collard greens make me feel at home. And it's also a green. It's hearty. Like you know what I mean? Like you got to have something green.
That's right. You gonna make me go cook some tonight.
I already listen. You look collard greens and cabbage that with cornbread. That is your go-to.
That's right.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to say macaroni and cheese too.
All
That's
right.
crazy. I feel
You
so
are your
bad.
mother's daughter.
Is. Wait, but about the macaroni and cheese, there's always a debate on social media about like how macaroni and cheese is fixed. So how do you like your macaroni and cheese? Because I like how Taronda make hers. I'm not even gonna lie. I like it like basically stovetop. We bake it a little bit, but it's not like a macaroni pie. A lot of people like macaroni pie or like macaroni casserole where they can just cut a block. I don't really like that. I like how Taronda make hers.
Yeah, it's been so long since I had Taronda's. I've forgotten how she makes it. Auntie Gwen makes a good mac and cheese, but it's with the spaghetti noodles
Yeah.
and it's not dry. I don't like
Hmm.
dry macaroni. If it's dry, don't give it to me. Don't put it on my plate.
Hmm.
But Auntie Gwen makes a pretty good
Cheese spaghetti.
yes, cheese spaghetti. Yes.
People be like, because remember we was arguing at the party because Kiera and it was like, no, it's spaghetti and cheese. Baby, it is cheese spaghetti.
Yes, cheese
Okay.
spaghetti. That's right.
So if cheese spaghetti was on here instead of macaroni and cheese, then I'll have to get rid of collard greens. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm still
You'll
gonna
still
say, yeah. Give me my collard greens any day. I can eat collard greens and cornbread, and you don't have to give me anything else. Yeah.
all of it is so good. Okay, round two. These are church lady essentials. So one gotta go. Big church hats, peppermints or other candies in your purse, the church fan, or the white communion gloves. Which one gotta go?
Oh, that one a little hard because 2 of them would have to go. But I would say for me, if it were for me, the big church hat would have to go
Why?
because I don't wear hats.
Ma,
I
your
will
head too small for hats.
I'll suffer through the gloves, but I'm not doing the hat.
That hat will swallow your little head, Ma.
It would. Now, when I get a little older, I might,
Start wearing the church hat?
I might
Why?
have to start wearing the church lady hat and the church lady suit. You know, 60, 70 years old, I might have to be the church mother.
You
So,
gonna
yeah,
be stepping on first Sunday.
right. That's right. Got to get my little pony heels.
Stop it now. And your stockings and your slip.
That's right. Got to have it all together.
Ooh, for me, I would have to say the white communion gloves gotta go. I mean, I know you need the gloves for communion, whatever you passing it out. They gotta go. I don't like things on my hands. But
Mm.
also, I can't get rid of the big church hat because I love a big hat. You know me, I
Uh,
love a big hat.
yeah.
Also, peppermints and candy keep us from passing out
Oh,
because
yeah.
long church services in the South, we need some substance before we go and eat Sunday dinner. That's why it's called Sunday dinner because we don't eat breakfast or lunch because we're at church.
So, Tyra, let me tell you.
What?
So, when I sit in the reserve seat where I have to sit when I'm working as a life coach in the service,
Uh-huh.
there is this older lady that comes in every Sunday, and she either sits beside me or she sits in front of me. And the first time I met her, she offered me the peppermint. Next time, every Sunday she come in, she grab a big scoop of peppermint out of her purse and just reach it to me. And she be so happy doing it. And I can't say no, even though I already have peppermint in my purse, because if I tell her that, she's still gonna be like, well, just take it, you know. But she comes in with her bag of peppermint, she reach her hand in there and she'll turn around to me with this big old smile on her face, and you know, you just can't resist. So I'm like, thank you for the peppermint. So it's so wonderful. But yeah, you're right. They come in with that peppermint. It be
They do.
that's
It be
right.
the peppermints. It be peppermints, or it be well, used to be butterscotch candies. I didn't got that in church before, and also those strawberry candies in the
Yeah.
little strawberry paper.
Yes.
Ugh. And but you, what you be having, Ma? You be having Mentos. You be having gum, like
Well,
the icebreakers
since you gonna
gum.
put me out there like that, I might have a little bit of everything in my purse because
You do
sometimes I have chocolate in there
the
because I
Snickers
didn't
and the
eat
little Twix.
breakfast. I didn't eat breakfast. So when I don't eat breakfast, then I need to have something to keep my sugar levels from dropping. So it just depends. I might have Rolos in my purse.
Oh yeah, Ma, you used to have Rolos a lot. Oh, I used to love
Yeah.
when you had the Rolos in there.
Yeah. Yep.
That's
Gotta keep the blood
hilarious.
sugar up.
Exactly. So we could praise the Lord.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, round three. Now this one is more towards our subject today. Estate planning. So which one gotta go? A purse full of important papers. The four emergencies only credit card. The fancy pen that you use to sign all of your important documents. Or the file folder that's labeled, don't lose this.
The
Which one
fancy
gotta go?
pen gotta go.
No hesitation.
No
Why?
hesitation. Because it's important to keep those documents. You know, you might need to go get you a fire resistant safe or something to put in your house if that's what you need to do. Something, but you need to have those important papers and you need to keep them. You can get a pen from anywhere. You don't have to have a certain kind of pen. As long as it's blue or black ink, you good.
But you be liking your certain pens though.
I do. I do. I definitely do. And I keep them close.
For me, hmm, I would say the purse full of important papers gotta go. And this is why. Because normally when you got a purse full of important something, is unorganized, the papers got spills on them, all types of stuff. It needs to be digitized and it needs to be put into a filing cabinet or something in a better way. So I think the purse part is what make me say that got to go. The important papers don't have to go, but we need to store those in an organized fashion. So I say that got to go because I love a good fancy pen to sign the documents because I'm very particular about my pens too. Like it needs to be the right kind of pen so it glide right on the paper, all of that. So that's the one that got to go for me.
Yeah, and I thought about the purse at first, but then there are some people that they're not ever going to be neat and organized. So getting
Yeah,
rid of the purse, you know, might be a problem because then the documents might not ever be seen again.
that
So
part.
you know, I'll let them keep their purse full of important papers because at least they know where the purse at.
Yeah. They do be knowing what a purse is at. That don't
Uh,
never, yeah.
that's right. That's right.
Okay, you guys. Well, Ma, I had so much fun chatting with you today. Before we get out of here, let the people know where they can find you. They can find you where? On LinkedIn and on your blog.
They can find me on LinkedIn. They can also find me on my website, which is AndreaMorrisonLaw.com. I am in the process of rebuilding my website. So if you go out there and it's down, please check back again soon because I am upgrading it to make sure that it is accessible to everyone. And daughter, if I may have the liberty of giving a call to action, I would appreciate it in closing, but I would
Yes.
just say to everyone, estate planning is a form of economic resistance and empowerment. It's about reclaiming your right to build, protect, and pass on your wealth, no matter how small or how great. So I would encourage you to start with a will or a trust. I encourage you to get some life insurance that fits in your budget. There's no small amount of life insurance that's inconsequential. It all matters. And I would also encourage you to talk to some professionals who understand your goals and history. But everyone, please start your estate planning today.
Started today. I was literally while we were talking, I was like, okay, I need to really make me a list of the things that I need to do and call you and figure out what to do.
Awesome.
So yes, y'all, it's super important. And I think it's a huge act of self-care to have all of your affairs in order, no matter where you are in life. But with that being said, again, Ma, I had so much fun talking to you. If you want to be on the podcast again,
Oh,
let
yeah.
us know. If y'all want to see Ma on the show, wait. If y'all want to see Ma on the show again, let us know. Send us some emails, write on our Instagram, whatever you need to do, right? If you have any questions for her, not pointed questions because she cannot give legal advice, but if you have any questions about this entire process, shoot them over to us via email and I will give them to her and let her answer the ones that she wants to answer. But if you would like to see her on the show again, please, please, please let us know because I had so much fun. But that is all that I have for you guys today. If you are not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, go over there, hit that big red subscribe button down below, and make sure your notifications are on so you can get all of the alerts anytime we post any new episodes. As you guys know, this is video, and we're doing a lot more video episodes, so it's going to be super popping over there on the YouTube channel. And you get to see my mama's pretty face in this episode.
Oh.
Um, but yeah, y'all, that's all that I have for you today. Any last words for them, Ma?
No, that's it. I encourage you to just go out there, keep in mind that our ancestors were denied their right to own property. So we should be honoring them today by protecting what we've built and ensuring that our children don't have to start from zero. That's what I encourage you to do.
Yay. Well, thank you so much.
You're
And that's all I got for you guys. I will see you guys again next week. This is Affirmations for Black Girls.
Few things are as powerful as loud. Poison is yet powerful. Love.